Hi, everyone. My name is Brett Gelfand, and today I'm going to talk about the importance of intervention for those who are neurodivergent. Individuals with disabilities are being charged greater rates for healthcare and intervention. When I say greater rates, it's more so of they require a lot more intervention a lot of the time, and those costs are fairly great. For example, in a research study in 2023, it was found that annually individuals with disabilities spend on average $3,000 towards healthcare. However, the annual cost on average for individuals who are non-neurodivergent is averaged out to about $815 for the year. Now, this is a very big difference, and the main reason for this increased cost of healthcare comes down to receiving several different physician services. These include physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, as well as others. In addition to the expensive cost for healthcare, the cost of getting started can often deter individuals. For example, for those who want to receive an autism spectrum disorder diagnosis, the average cost as of 2023 was roughly $1,200. Now, these costs are pretty great and may push people away from receiving a formal diagnosis. And when I was making this presentation, I was thinking about different stories that really stood out to me. And I had a hard time just picking just one. And I wanted to bring up one shorter story and one that dives into my family and my extended family and someone I've seen grow up and have firsthand seen the benefits intervention can have on an individual with autism spectrum disorder. Um, so the short story I'll discuss when I get to my policy section because I believe it dives into that topic pretty well. So the policy that I chose is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. For those of you who may not know about this policy, the main concept of it is to provide a free public education to anyone with a disability. Although this is the main concept of this policy, it also addresses and focuses on much more. For example, the policy focuses on how states and public agencies provide early intervention, special education, as well as other related services to nearly 7.5 million eligible children every year. In this law or act, Congress states disability is a natural part of the human experience and in no way diminishes the right of the individuals to participate in or contribute to society. Improving educational results for children with disabilities is an essential element of our national policy of ensuring equality of opportunity, full participation, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency for individuals with disabilities. And although interventions are normally thought of as different types of therapies, they can take many different forms. For example, one of the stories that I wanted to tell you, the briefer one, I personally had the experience to work at several camps over my years that have been very beneficial for individuals with disabilities. Specifically, this past year, I worked at a camp called Camp Attaway. It's a camp located in Columbia, Maryland, and it is for children ages 8 to 13, and it's a 3-week long camp. The mission of this camp is to create a place for children with severe behavioral and emotional challenges to have fun. Each week of camp was focused around developing skills such as social skills, teamwork, and coping skills. And we purposely put coping skills as the last week to help these children get through the heavy emotions that might come up with camp coming to an end. And midway through the second week, so about halfway through camp, we had a parent night where the parents of the children came after a day of camp and got to meet their children's counselors. While there, one of the parents came up to me and shared that this camp has been amazing for her son and is the only camp he has ever been to that he has not been kicked out on the first day. And hearing that really just made me think of, wow, although this might not be an intervention that we think of and the first thing that comes up, for these children, they're learning so many skills here that they wouldn't learn elsewhere. Camp Attaway has been around for 26 years, and in their 26 years, they have never kicked a camper out of camp. In addition, many of the individuals who go to the camp are grant funded. They're relying on grants in order to go there. And a lot of them aren't paying directly out of pocket, so their child can go there when they can't afford for them to go to another camp. So this allows for them to have an amazing summer experience, to meet lifelong friends, and to learn important skills at the same time. And for the analysis, I believe that the IDA is doing a great job in creating a fair education for everyone and makes a great stride towards creating affordable options for individuals with disabilities. However, there's always areas to improve. For example, in section 303.13 of the IDEA, titled Early Intervention Services, general early intervention services means developmental services that are provided at no cost, except subject to, where federal or state law provides for a system of payments by families, including a schedule of sliding fees. Oftentimes, places have very long wait lists. That accept the sliding scale. And an example of this is Kennedy Krieger. I have seen some people have to wait a very long time to get seen, and it's because the services aren't offered as wide as we may need. A perfect example of this is my cousin, who's now 13 and was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder about a decade ago. Over Thanksgiving, I had the opportunity to talk to his parents, and my uncle specifically was talking about his experience. And he shares that he remembers waiting over 3 months to receive a consultation, and he wanted to go to Kennedy Krieger because they are the best at what they do, and wanted to get the consultation, wanted to be in the Kennedy Krieger database so he could receive early interventions easier for him. And I asked him about how much he remembers this costing, and he said he doesn't remember the cost, but he does recall that it was expensive and that he knew that the cost of this could get in the way of other people seeking the assistance. And he knew, regardless of the cost, he knew the importance this diagnosis would have on his child and the services he would be able to receive. And pretty quickly after his diagnosis, his formal diagnosis, he started speech therapy, occupational therapy, as well as the parents joined a peer group. And when I asked the uncle specifically what the intervention and what the diagnosis meant to him specifically, he said, the diagnosis was not necessarily a solution or the answer. The solution or growth comes from what you do about that diagnosis and what gates are open because of that diagnosis. And this message really resonated with me. He recognized that the diagnosis is just the start. The overall financial costs with the consultation don't end with the consultation, they just start there. Although my uncle did not share the cost, the annual cost of therapies, as well as other related services, he does recognize that it was costly, and for many individuals, they might not be able to receive these interventions. It's now nearly a decade later, and my cousin is in public school and he's excelling. He is doing very well for himself. He's in above grade level courses. And he's doing very well socially. He's doing sports, he's doing different clubs, and he's doing very well in them. And there were a few other points that my uncle and aunt said that really stood out to me. Prior to my cousin's diagnosis and subsequent early intervention services, he had a very limited vocabulary, and quickly after starting speech therapy, they found that his vocabulary grew very, very quickly. In addition, before other therapies and other services, he was very pattern oriented. I remember when he was maybe 2 or 3, he had a train set that he got for Christmas, and they had to be in the exact order every time, the same order that he put them in. And if they weren't, if the train was missing, it was really hard for him. And the third is they recalled their son having difficulty with making friends, and even shared with me that one of the hardest things for them was seeing that other kids his age did not want to have play dates with him. And that's really hard for a parent to see and to go through. And my aunt and uncle shared that from this diagnosis, it has allowed for their son to really receive services, and they have clearly greatly impacted him and his growth. He doesn't receive any of those services anymore. He doesn't receive speech therapy, he doesn't receive occupational therapy, and the parents don't go to the peer group anymore. And a large part of it is because they caught it early and they were able to start these early interventions as soon as they could. And for my concluding thoughts, as I discussed in my paper and brought up several times with my uncle, the cause just begins with consultation and the diagnosis. And it continues after that. And it even continues post-secondary. For example, a statistic that I was having a hard time hearing is that even though the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, grants public access to education to everyone with a disability, we are seeing individuals experiencing a time of confusion after graduation. For example, in a survey that was conducted back in 2017, they found that individuals with level 1 and level 2 autism, also often referred to as high functioning autism, had an unemployment rate of 38.58%. In context, the national average for unemployment rate for the United States is 3.8%. That is a huge difference. And I wanted to bring up this statistic with you to share that although there are systems set in place to aid individuals through school, career readiness is often an area that is overlooked. In fact, the mass majority of the individuals that were surveyed in this survey reported never receiving any job readiness assistance at all. And so where do we go from here? I believe that the next step is to add to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act to mandate adding a curriculum focused on providing career readiness opportunities to these students. This can be done by providing internships for high school seniors to help them develop in a field that they are interested in. I interned at Genesee Upper School many years ago when I was an undergrad, and they did this, and it worked really well for their students and oftentimes led to jobs. And I believe that if this becomes something more focused on and becomes part of the act, it will work really, really well for these individuals. And that is it for my presentation. And here are my sources. Thank you.